Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Something Sinister, where we explore the horror in fact and in fiction. I'm your host, Jacob Pratt, and today we're going to be looking at an iceberg created by myself, detailing all of the haunted objects that I could find. I also have to mention that my fiance, Karlee, also helped me do some of the research for this video. I will link her social media down in the description box below. A big inspiration for this iceberg was this book, Spookiest Objects, by Terrence Zepke. Maybe I'm pronouncing that right. Which segues very nicely into the next disclaimer. This list is very extensive and contains a lot of different places and unique names, and I'm probably going to mispronounce a good majority of things. So please forgive me for that. And also, by the way, the video is not sponsored, but if you would like to sponsor or send me your book that you wrote about creepy stuff that I can talk about or display information through on the channel, feel free to shoot me an email. As always, there are chapter breaks listed down in the description below, so if you want to jump from one tier to another tier or just watch one thing in particular, you're able to do that fairly easy. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably going to be the last Something Sinister video of 2022. So I hope that you guys had a wonderful year, and again, thank you so much for all of the continual support for the channel. The channel grew the quickest it's ever grown this year, and I just hope to see more of that as we go into 2023. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me and being so kind, and yeah, I guess without further ado, here is the Haunted Objects Iceberg breakdown explained, and I hope you enjoy. Robert is the name given to this allegedly haunted doll. The doll originally belonged to Robert Eugene Otto, an artist described as eccentric, who belonged to a prominent Key West family. The doll was reportedly manufactured by the Steiff Company of Germany, purchased by Otto's grandfather while on a trip to Germany in 1904, and given to young Otto as a birthday gift. The doll's sailor suit was likely an outfit that Otto wore as a child. The doll remains stored in the Otto family home at 534 Eaton Street in Key West while Otto studied art in New York and in Paris. Otto married Annette Parker in Paris on May 3rd of 1930. The couple returned to the Otto family home in Key West to live there until Otto died in 1974. His wife died 2 years later. After their deaths, the Eaton Street home containing the doll was sold to Myrtle Reuter, who owned it for 20 years, until the property was sold to the current owners, who operate it as a guest house. According to legend, the doll has supernatural abilities that allow it to move, change its facial expressions, and make giggling sounds. Some versions of the legend claim that a young girl of Bahamian descent gave Otto the doll as a gift or a retaliation for a wrongdoing. Other stories claim that the doll moved voodoo figurines around the room and was aware of what went on around him. Still, other legends claim that the doll vanished after Otto's house changed ownership a number of times after his death, or that young Otto triggered the doll's supernatural powers by blaming his childhood mishaps on the doll. According to local folklore, the doll has caused car accidents, broken bones, job loss, divorce, and a cornucopia of other misfortunes, and the museum's visitors supposedly experience post-visit misfortunes for failing to respect Robert. The Terracotta Army is a collection of terracotta sculptures depicting the armies of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. It is a form of funerary art buried with the emperor in 210 or 209 BCE with the purpose of protecting the emperor in his afterlife. Many scholars believe that it was intended that the Terracotta Army was never to be seen by the living, and for centuries its existence was a myth. Until the unlikely discovery by a group of farmers digging for water unearthed the ancient statues that still guard the necropolis, or ancient Greek meaning for city of the dead. With every ancient archaeological find, there come tales of legends and curses, sometimes even before they are discovered at all. It is believed that in order for the burial site to remain a secret, Emperor Qin Shi Huang had thousands of his workers who built the army buried alive with him. It took more than 700,000, over 36 years in total, to build the elaborate tomb. Hundreds of skeletons have already been discovered in the pits where the warriors stand guard. There were also skeletal remains of women thought to be the emperor's concubines for the afterlife. One of the men who discovered the terracotta army, Yang Zifa, told Swiss News in 2013 that many of the older people in the village believed that the warriors were statues of the gods and that disturbing them would bring upon misfortune. When the farmers first found the head of the warrior, Yang Zifa used a hammer to break it off, believing it to be a bronze relic that they could sell in the village for cigarettes. Yang and other farmers told a news site everyone was afraid to touch it. We thought that it was a temple statue, or Buddha perhaps. We were frightened that the Buddha would punish us for tampering with it. In 1987, a family living in the small town of Horicon, Wisconsin, was gripped by what may be the only case ever of haunted children's bedroom furniture. Alan and Debbie Tallman bought the bunk bed from a secondhand shop and moved it into their home on the quiet Larrabee Street. Strange things began happening almost immediately. The radio would switch stations on its own. The children saw an ugly old woman in their room. She had long black hair and a glow like fire. Doors banged open and shut, and a chair would rock by itself. Disembodied voices would call out from empty rooms. The Tallmans decided to bring in their pastor, who said that he felt the presence of the devil and then blessed the house. But the activity continued, and their son soon became so scared that he no longer wanted to stay in the house. Frustrated one day, Alan walked into the house, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Pick on me and leave my kids alone." The next day, whatever entity was inhabiting his home accepted the challenge. Alan heard a voice from the garage say, "Come here." When he went in to investigate, he saw the orange glow of fire inside, with red eyes staring at him through the garage door windows. Later, while in bed sleeping with his frightened children, Alan witnessed a fog arise out from the floor. It turned into flames with green eyes. A voice emanted out of it telling him, "You're dead," and then it was gone. A few days later, a relative of the family spent the evening in the house, helping Debbie with the children, while Alan worked late. A skeptic of the paranormal, this relative became a believer that night when a horrific figure materialized in the bedroom as he was putting the children into bed. The Tallmans fled their home that night in the dead of a Wisconsin winter. Believed to be one of America's most haunted homes, this plantation is supposedly home to at least 12 ghosts. It is often reported that 10 murders occurred in this house, but historical records only indicate the murder of William Winter. In 2001, Unsolved Mysteries filmed a segment about the alleged hauntings at the plantation. According to host Robert Stack, the production crew experienced technical difficulties during the production of the segment. The Myrtles were also featured on a 2005 episode of Ghost Hunters. A mirror located in the house supposedly holds the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and 2 of her children. According to legend, mirrors are covered after a death, but legend says that after the poisoning of the Woodruffs, this particular mirror was overlooked. The uncovered mirror reportedly trapped the spirits of Sarah and her children, who are occasionally seen or leave handprints on the mirror. Annabelle is an allegedly haunted Raggedy Ann doll housed in the Occult Museum of the paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. According to the Warrens, a student nurse was given the doll in 1971. They said that the doll behaved strangely and that a psychic medium told the student that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a deceased girl named Annabelle. The student and her roommate tried to accept and nurture the spirit-possessed doll, but the doll reportedly exhibited malicious and frightening behavior. It was at this point that the Warrens say that they were first contacted, moving the doll to their museum after pronouncing it demonically possessed. The doll remained in a glass box at the Warrens Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut, until the museum's closing. Texas State University Assistant Professor of Religious Studies Joseph Laycock says most skeptics have dismissed the Warrens Museum as full of off-the-shelf Halloween junk, dolls and toys, and books you could buy at any bookstore. Laycock calls the Annabelle legend an interesting case study in the relationship between pop culture and paranormal folklore, and speculates that the demonic doll trope, popularized by films such as Child's Play, Dolly Dearest, and The Conjuring, likely emerged from early legends surrounding Robert the Doll, as well as from a Twilight Zone episode released 5 years prior to the Warrens' story entitled Living Doll, in which the character of the mother is named Annabelle. Laycock suggests that the idea of demonically possessed dolls allows modern demonologists to find supernatural evil in the most domestic of places. Silent film actor Rudolph Valentino became a star with 1921's The Sheik. Audiences reportedly fainted when the sultry and sensual Valentino appeared on screen. As the Latin lover's career was fairly brief, it can be argued that his unexpected death at the age of 31 truly cemented his status as an icon. History reports that Valentino died from a ruptured ulcer on August 23, 1926. However, some believe that a cursed ring is what really sent him to his early grave. Valentino found the item, called the Destiny Ring, at a store in San Francisco. The shopkeeper purportedly told him that he had no intention of selling the ring, as it was supposedly cursed. Valentino would hear none of it and bought it anyway. Per Rick Wayne, the actor wore the tiger's eye crystal ring while he filmed The Young Raja, a film that turned out to be his only flop. After the premiere of his next movie, Valentino collapsed and eventually died while getting surgery for what was wrongly thought to be appendicitis. It's believed that he was wearing the ring at the time of his death. Though Valentino was perhaps the ring's first victim, he would not be its last. According to Film Daily, the ring was given to Valentino's lover, actress Pola Negri. Shortly after, her Hollywood career swiftly came to an end, and she became ill. Thinking that the ring might actually be cursed, Negri gave it to singer Russ Columbo. Days later, he was shot and killed by a friend. Columbo's possessions, including the Valentino ring, was sent to Joe Casino. Casino was a good friend of Columbo and put the ring on display. Believing the curse was nothing but a fabrication, he eventually decided to wear it. Per Rick Wayne, Casino died when he was hit by a truck shortly after. His brother, Dell, inherited the ring and kept it locked in his home. Ripley's states that Dell's home was robbed and that the thief took the ring. Before he could make his escape, the police arrived to the scene and shot him dead. The ring was still in his pocket. Short for Letta Me Out, Letta is a 200-year-old wooden doll with human hair. He was discovered beneath a house in Wagga Wagga, Australia, by his current caretaker, Carrie Walton. Walton told the Warwick Daily News, "I reckon he walks in the nighttime. We came in here as a new house, and I've never heard so many strange things in all my life." He's found scuff marks on the floor of his home, as well as objects mysteriously shifted. Walton has brought Letta with him to multiple television interviews, and he has started an Instagram page dedicated to the doll. The Baleroy Mansion is a 32-room estate situated on 22,000 feet of land in one of the most affluent neighborhoods in Philadelphia. The house has roughly 6,000 square feet of living space and includes a large carriage house. It was built in 1911 by a carpenter who allegedly murdered his wife in the very house. It was bought by the Easby family in 1926, and the house has stayed in the family until 2005. Family members all claim to have experienced some paranormal phenomena. This ranged from hallucinations to ghost sightings. Family and visitors have seen an old woman dressed in black with a cane. She hovers in the corner of a room on the second floor of the house. There has been unexplainable knocking and banging as well. One of the evil spirits in the house is named Amanda. Amanda is an evil entity that came to the Baleroy at some point and just won't leave. She often yanks doors open and slams them shut violently. She takes on the appearance of a weird red mist. She does her best to lure you into the blue room and into a certain chair, which has become known as Amanda's chair. The chair is an ugly 200-year-old blue upholstered wingback chair that reportedly once belonged to Napoleon Bonaparte. The blue room is an 18th century drawing room which contains an assortment of antiques and secret compartments. Amanda has tricked at least 4 people into sitting into her death chair. This beautifully carved oak bed is thought to have been made in the late 16th century by Jonas Fosbrook, a German craftsman for an inn in Ware, possibly as a publicity stunt. The enormous bed is over 3 meters wide and weighs about 641 kilograms and is believed to be able to easily accommodate 4 couples. It is first referred to in 1596 by a German prince staying at the White Hart Inn. During its long history, the bed moved around between 5 inns in Ware: the White Hart, the George, the Crown, the Bull, and the Saracen's Head. Although large beds were not uncommon in public houses where space was at a premium and men often slept in the same bed to save money, the Ware bed had to have been unusual considering how famous it became. Its fame was such that it was even mentioned by Shakespeare in Twelfth Night when his character Sir Toby Belch describes a sheet of paper as big enough for the bed of Ware. It was also referred to in Ben Jonson's 1609 play The Silent Woman and George Farquhar's 1706 play The Recruiting Officer. There is also a story which appeared in the London Chronicle in July of 1765 about how the 1689 bed became the subject of a bet when 26 butchers and their wives agreed to spend the night in it. Not sure how they would have physically managed to do that, but it would have given a different meaning to the expression sleep tight. The bed is reportedly haunted by the ghost of its maker. It appears from all accounts to be either a snobbish or prudish spirit, depending on which story you wish to believe. One version is that the ghost takes offense to any person of a rank lower than royalty sleeping in the bed, and the other that it dislikes couples having sex in the bed. Whenever such a despicable act would occur, he would even be reported to take direct action to put a halt to their activities by pinching the couple until they stopped. The name Unlucky Mummy is misleading as the artifact is not a mummy at all, but rather a gessoed and painted wooden mummy board or inner coffin lid. It was found at Thebes and can be dated by its shape and the style of its decoration to the late 21st century or early 22nd dynasty. In the British Museum, it is known by its serial number EA 2254-2. The beardless face and the position of the hands with fingers extended show that it was made to cover the mummified body of a woman. Her identity is not known due to the brief hieroglyphic inscriptions containing only short religious phrases and omitting mention of the name of the deceased. The high quality of the lid indicates that the owner was a person of high rank. It was unusual for such ladies to participate in the musical accompaniments to the rituals in the temple of Amun-Ra, hence early British Museum publications describing the owner of 2254-2 as a priestess of Amun-Ra. E.A. Wallace Budge, keeper of Egyptian and Assyrian antiques from 1894 to 1924, also suggested that she might have been of royal blood, but this was pure speculation and is not supported by the iconography of the lid. The mummy board is 162 centimeters, or 64 inches, in length and made out of wood and plaster. The detail is painted upon the plaster and hands protrude from the wooden mummy board. For its age, the mummy board is of good quality. The mummy board has acquired a reputation for bringing misfortune, and a vast web of mythology has developed around it. It has been credited with causing death, injury, and large-scale disasters such as the sinking of the RMS Titanic in 1912, thereby earning the nickname the Unlucky Mummy. None of these stories have any basis in fact, of course, but for some time, the strength of the rumors has led to a flood of inquiries on the subject. A disclaimer written by Wallace Budge was published in 1934, and yet since that time, the myth has undergone further embellishment. The unlucky mummy has also been linked to the death of the British writer and journalist Bertram Fletcher Robinson. Robinson conducted research into the history of the artifact while working as a journalist for the Daily Express newspaper during 1904. He became convinced that the unlucky mummy had malevolent powers and died just 3 years after at the age of 36. Thomas Busby is not someone you would consider to be a good citizen. He resided in North Yorkshire during the 1600s and was known as a drunk, would constantly steal, and some refer to him as a thug. Eventually, Busby married a woman by the name of Elizabeth. She was the daughter of a man named Daniel Oddie. Oddie consistently committed petty crimes. He purchased a farm, and he was able to customize to accommodate for his illegal activities. The farm was in Leeds and was called Donati Hall. He supposedly had built a hidden chamber in the home connected by a secret passageway to the cellar. Busby befriended Oddie, and together they committed many crimes. Busby owned a small inn near Sanhutton, which was 3 miles away from Donati Hall. The last day of Daniel Oddie's life was far from uneventful. From what we know, Oddie and Busby had a heated argument at some point during the day, which accelerated greatly over the next few hours. No one is quite sure what the argument was about, but there are theories that it could have been regarding Elizabeth or their illegal activities. Though arguments were not unusual in their relationship, the extent of this one was. One part we are sure about of the story is that Thomas Busby arrived at his inn drunken and volatile when he sees Oddie, who threatens to take Elizabeth away from Busby. But Busby was already focused on the fact that Oddie was sitting in his favorite chair. They continued to argue, and it ended in Busby physically forcing Oddie out of the chair. Later that night, Busby was still riled up and seething from the argument they had earlier on, and in his fragile state, he got a hold of a hammer. He made his way to Donati Hall and bludgeoned Oddie to death using the hammer. Busby hid the body in the woods afterward, but people quickly became suspicious of Oddie's sudden disappearance. A search was made in the area where they lived, and they discovered the remains. Thomas Busby was immediately arrested and charged with murder. During the summer of 1702, they held a trial for the conviction of Thomas Busby. In the end, it was determined that he would be sentenced to death. He was supposed to be hung from the neck, and then his body would be dipped in tar and gruesomely displayed on the front of his inn. The inn remained until 2012, renamed Busby Stoop Inn. This next part of the story is not clear how the events happened, but we do know that either way, Busby was determined to make misfortune strike again. In one version, it is said that Busby was allowed to have a last drink in his favorite wooden chair. When he finished the drink, he was taken from the chair, and he screamed a final warning that anyone who sat in the chair would die a horrible death. The other way, some people believe that the curse came upon the chair after Busby was shouting as he was hung by the neck. His spirit is also believed to be haunting his beloved inn, but the chair has been the main focus. The first recorded death that has been linked to the chair took place after a man and his friend sat in it during their visit to the pub. They both became intoxicated, and one of them decided to sleep on the road that night, never making it home. His body was later found in the morning hung from a tree near where Busby was hung. The friend he had been with admitted to robbing and then murdering the man, but he did not reveal this until he was on his deathbed. The next significant one was during the late 1960s when two airmen dared each other to sit in the chair, unassuming of the fate that they would suffer hours later. That night, when they were on their way home, their car ran off the road and hit a tree. Both men died on their way to the hospital. Some other honorable mentions include someone falling through the roof of a building building, a woman suffering a brain tumor, a heart attack, and many more vehicular accidents. All of these took place shortly after the people sat in the chair, and all of them ended in death. The chair can be linked to around 60 deaths. Because of all the misfortune that took place after sitting in the chair, the decision was ultimately made to have it hung on the ceiling. Many people feared that someone would unknowingly sit on it or bump into it and have some freak accident kill them. To this day, it still resides in the Thirsk mansion. Would you take the chance and sit in the Busby's deadly stoop chair? A young girl falls in love with a boy, the wrong boy. In this case, the girl is Anna Baker, who is the youngest daughter of Elias Baker, a wealthy businessman. Despite his humble beginnings, Elias was a snob. He only wanted what was best for himself and his family. He expected his daughter to marry well. Elias had worked hard to secure his family's place in society, and he expected his extended family to reflect this premise. Anna died in 1914, many believe of a broken heart. She had lost her will to live after her father ran her husband-to-be out of town. She never married, and she never forgave her father for what he had done. The dress was given to the Historical Society, which put it on exhibit in the Baker Mansion Museum. It was kept in a glass display case and is believed to be haunted by Anna's spirit, as is the Baker house. Visitors and staff of the Historical Society claim to have seen the ghosts of Anna, Elias, and her lover, Hetty. Anna is usually seen in the parlor and her old bedroom. Elias is seen sitting in the dining room, and Hetty is seen on occasion on the staircase. All these spirits disappear almost as quickly as they appear. Banging is heard most often, and it's almost as if a cane is repeatedly hitting the floor. Also, unexplainable odors, cold spots, and furniture being moved, and footsteps have been reported as well. There is a music box that begins playing, and a security alarm that often goes off for no good reason. The Anguished Man is a painting created by an unknown artist. Owner Sean Robinson claims to have inherited the painting from his grandmother, who told him that the artist who created the painting had mixed his own blood into the paint and committed suicide soon after finishing the work. The painting has been characterized as being supposedly haunted. She stated she had received the painting as a gift from someone, but she was so creeped out by it that she kept it under a lock and key in the attic for 25 years. Perhaps the creepiest anecdote Robinson's grandmother noted about the painting was the fact that it came with a visitor. She said the moment that she brought it home, she started to see a dark figure of a man in the corners of the house. She also began hearing strange, unexplainable noises such as crying and moaning. These all occurred mostly at night. After Robinson took the painting, his family saw and heard the apparition as well. He reported, "The noises have been getting worse. We have heard crying coming from the corner of our bedroom. We started seeing the dark figure standing at the bottom of the bed, just staring at us. It seems to be a middle-aged man, but his features are not very clear." After the family started noticing strange occurrences around the house, Robinson decided to set up a camera to record it during the night. When he reviewed the footage, he was shocked at what he saw. Objects moved around on their own, weird noises were heard throughout the footage, and ghostly lights kept appearing around the painting. He then decided to keep a video journal of the painting and recorded it to see what else would happen. He uploaded his videos to his YouTube channel in 2010, where some of them garnered over 1 million views. In one YouTube video, Robinson purportedly caught some bizarre events. The timestamp shows the video was recorded on March 23, 2011 at 4 a.m. Instead of objects moving around or doors slamming shut, however, strange lights appeared around the painting itself. Due to all the strange occurrences in the home, Robinson's wife was understandably creeped out. What may have pushed her over the edge was an experience in which she woke up in bed and saw a frightening figure laying beside her. She was so traumatized by it that she didn't want to be in the same house as the painting. As a compromise, Robinson offered to keep the painting in the basement. It didn't stay there long, however. The basement suddenly flooded, and this forced them to relocate the painting back upstairs. According to Robinson and his family, the hauntings came back along with it. At one point, Robinson loaned the painting to a pair of paranormal investigators, John Blackburn and Ian Lawman. The two of them took the painting to various haunted places in the UK. Most notably, they took it to Chillingham Castle, one of the most notoriously haunted locations in Britain. Allegedly, during a seance, the room went icy cold when a large, dark figure appeared in the middle of the seance circle. An alleged spirit began pushing and throwing a large wooden bench around the room when Blackburn began asking the painting questions. Blackburn said, "It was on the evening of May 18, 2013, at Chillingham Castle that a group of people experienced events that were both terrifying and unexplained. None of the guests were prepared for what was about to happen in the early hours of Sunday morning. The room went icy cold when a large, dark figure appeared in the middle of the seance circle. A large wooden bench banged on the floor of its own accord in response to John Blackburn's questions to the painting. Then suddenly, the bench was flipped upside down violently by what was believed to be John Sage, one of Chillingham Castle's residential powerful spirits, who we think was showing an anger to a foreign, uninvited spirit to his castle." In 2016, Labria Pictures bought the rights to make a film based on The Anguished Man. T. Rix was slated to direct, having previously worked on a number of made-for-TV movies. She noted how compelling the idea of a haunted painting was, and was genuinely excited to shoot it. She said, "I am thrilled to be able to bring the story of the Anguished Man on the screen. There is something really intriguing about haunted items, and especially haunted paintings. They really appeal to our biggest fears and imagination." She announced the title for the film was Anguished. However, not much else was revealed about the project in the years since. The Blarney Stone is a block of Carboniferous limestone built into the battlements of Blarney Castle, about 8 kilometers or 5 miles from Cork, Ireland. According to legend, kissing the stone endows the kisser with the gift of the gab, or great eloquence or skill at flattery. The stone was set into the tower of the castle in 1446. The castle is a popular tourist site in Ireland, attracting visitors from all over the world to come and kiss the stone and tour the castle and its gardens. The word Blarney has come to mean clever, flattering, or coaxing talk. Irish politician John O'Connor Power defined it this way: Blarney is something more than mere flattery. It is flattery sweetened by humor and flavored by wit. Those who mix with Irish folk have many examples of it in their everyday experience. Letitia Elizabeth Landon described its contemporary meaning in an article entitled Blarney Castle in 1832. A number of stories attempt to explain the origin of the stone and surrounding legend. An early story involves the goddess Cladana. Cormac Ledir McCarthy, the builder of Blarney Castle, being involved in a lawsuit in the 15th century, appealed to Cladana for her assistance. She told McCarthy to kiss the first stone he found in the morning on his way to court, and he did so, with the result that he pleaded his case with great eloquence and won. Thus, the Blarney Stone is said to impart the ability to deceive without offending. McCarthy then incorporated it into the parapet of the castle. The proprietors of Blarney Castle list several other explanations of the origins of the stone on their website. Many of these suppose that the stone had previously been in Ireland, was taken to Scotland, and then returned to Ireland in 1314. The stories listed include one suggesting that the stone was presented to Cormac McCarthy by Robert the Bruce in 1314 in recognition of his support in the Battle of Bannockburn. This legend holds that this was a piece of the Stone of Scone and was installed at McCarthy's castle of Blarney. Although colorful, this folk legend does not account for the fact that it supposes that the stone was removed from Scotland 18 years before Bannockburn. Moreover, an analysis by geologists at the University of Glasgow in 2014 found the stone's geochemical signature matches local limestone. The ritual of kissing the Blarney Stone, according to the castle's proprietors, has been performed by millions of people, including world statesmen, literary giants, and legends of the silver screen. The kiss, however, is not casually achieved. To touch the stone with one's lips, the participant must ascend to the castle's peak and then lean over backwards on the parapet's edge. This is traditionally achieved with the help of an assistant. Although the parapet is now fitted with iron guide rails and protective crossbars, the ritual can still trigger attacks of acrophobia. Before the safeguards were installed, the kiss was performed with real risk to life and limb, as participants were grasped by the ankles and dangled bodily from the height. In Sherlock Holmes' radio dramatization, The Adventure of the Blarney Stone, a man attempting to kiss the Blarney Stone falls to his death. Holmes's investigation reveals that this was in fact a murder, the man's boots having been surreptitiously greased before the attempt. William Henry Holbert wrote in 1888 that the legend of the stone seemed to be less than 100 years old at the time, suggesting that the tradition began in the late 18th century. The legend of the Blarney Stone was described as a classical dictionary of the vulgar tongue by Francis Gross, printed in 1785. According to legend, a bride received this vase as a wedding gift in the 15th century. She took possession of it on her wedding night and was later found dead that same night, clutching the vase in her hand. One account reports that she died of mysterious circumstances, while another claims that she was murdered. As the vase made its way through the family, all those who came into possession of it died untimely deaths. Eventually, the family came to believe that they possessed a haunted object. They boxed up the vase and put it into storage. According to the family, a note had been enclosed inside the box containing the vase that read, "Beware, this vase brings death." It was written by the family member who had hidden the vase to warn anyone who might discover the hidden vase one day. No more incidents occurred until 1988. This was when the vase resurfaced. It was sold at an auction for $2,500. When the vase was auctioned off, there was no warning note in the box. Unaware of the backstory of the vase, the new owner happily took possession of it. He proudly displayed it for 3 months until his unexpected death. Once again, the vase was sold, and once again, the new owner soon died mysteriously. The vase kept changing hands with buyers including a surgeon, a pharmacist, an archaeologist, and an unknown buyer. They each suffered untimely deaths soon after acquiring the vase. The vicious cycle of the death finally ceased one day when an owner threw the object out of his window. The Hope Diamond is by far one of the most notorious diamonds of all time, shrouded in mystery with legends as multifaceted as the diamond itself. Also known as the King's Jewel or France's Blue, the Hope Diamond is a magnificent deep blue color and weighs 45.52 carats. As beautiful as it is, you probably wouldn't want to wear it or own it, as it is supposedly cursed. Since its discovery in India in 1642, the infamous diamond was stolen at least twice in its long history and has changed hands several times, leaving a trail of unfortunate fate and supposedly bad luck for almost every owner. First documented owner, Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, came down with a raging fever soon after stealing the diamond and soon passed away afterwards. King Louis XIV purchased the diamond from Tavernier and had it recut to 69 carats in 1673. It was then known as the Blue Diamond of the Crown, or the French Blue. King Louis XIV had gangrene and passed away. After King Louis XIV's death, Louis XVI and his spouse, Marie Antoinette, inherited the French Blue Diamond. Louis XVI was guillotined during France's turbulent political era, and his wife met the same fate 9 months later. Some say that their death was a result of the Hope Diamond's curse. The Hands Resist Him is a painting that was created by Bill Stoneham in 1972. It depicts a young boy and a female doll standing in front of a glass-paneled door against which many hands are pressed. According to Stoneham, the boy is based on a photograph of himself at the age of 5. The doorway is a representation of the dividing line between the waking world and the world of fantasy and impossibilities, while the doll is a guide that will escort the boy through it. The titular hands represent alternate lives or possibilities. The painting became the subject of an urban legend and viral internet meme in February of 2000 when it was posted for sale on eBay, along with a description implying that it was haunted. According to the seller, the eBay description made a series of claims that the painting was cursed. These included claims that there were characters in the painting that moved during the night, and that they would sometimes leave the painting and enter the room in which it was being displayed. Also included with the listing were a series of photographs that were said to be evidence of an incident in which the female doll character threatened the male character with a gun that she was holding, causing him to attempt leaving the painting. A disclaimer was included with the listing, absolving the seller from all liability of the painting being purchased. Ötzi, also known as the Iceman, is the natural mummy of a man who lived sometime between 3350 and 3105 BC. Discovered in September of 1991 in the Ötztal Alps on the border between Austria and Italy. Ötzi is believed to have been murdered due to the discovery of an arrowhead embedded in his left shoulder and various other wounds. The nature of his life and the circumstances of his death are subject of investigation and much speculation. He is Europe's oldest known natural human mummy, offering an unprecedented view of the Copper Age of Europeans. Influenced by the Curse of the Pharaohs and the media theme of cursed mummies, claims have been made that Ötzi is cursed. The allegation revolves around the deaths of several people connected to the discovery, recovery, and subsequent examination of Ötzi. It is alleged that they have died under mysterious circumstances. These people include co-discoverer Helmut Simon and Konrad Spindler, the first examiner of the mummy in Austria in 1991. To date, the death of 7 people, of which 4 were accidental, have been attributed to this alleged curse. In reality, hundreds of people were involved in the recovery of Ötzi and are still involved in the studying of the body and the artifacts found with it. The fact that a small percentage of them have died over the years has not been shown to be statistically significant. The Dybbuk box is a wine cabinet claimed to be haunted by a Dybbuk. In Jewish mythology, a Dybbuk is a malicious possessing spirit believed to be the dislocated soul of a dead person. It supposedly leaves the host body once it has accomplished its goal, sometimes after being exorcised. In 2003, writer and furniture refinishing business owner Kevin Manis purchased the cabinet from the yard sale of a local attorney in Portland, Oregon, and began developing a backstory. According to Manis, the carving in the back of it is my carving. The stone that was in the box is something that is a signature creation of mine as well. Make no mistake, I conceived of the Dybbuk box, the name, the term, the idea, and wrote this creative story around it to post on eBay. Manis's auction description included a story claiming that the cabinet was previously owned by a survivor of the Holocaust in Poland who said that it contained the malicious spirit of a Dybbuk, and that the box had paranormal powers and was responsible for his bad luck and nightmares. Subsequent owners retold Manis's story when reselling the item and amplified it with their own claims of strange phenomena. Known originally as the Woman from Lem, this statue is now commonly referred to as the Goddess of Death. The statue was discovered in Lem, Cyprus in 1878, and that's all about we know for certain. It is believed that the limestone statue is a fertility idol, although it is hard to tell by its appearance. Everyone who has come into possession of this statue has suffered untimely deaths. The first we know of is Lord Elfond. Without 6 years of owning the statue, all 7 members of his family were deceased. The next owner was Ivor Minucci. His family suffered the same fate. All were dead less than 4 years after Minucci brought the statue into their home. Lord Thompson Noel was the next owner. Again, he and his entire family died less than 4 years from the day they took possession of the statue. After that, Sir Ivan Biverbrook acquired the Lem statue. His wife and 2 daughters died soon after. The destructive, deathly cycle was finally broken when Biverbrook donated the statue to the Royal Scottish Museum, rather than sell it to another buyer. It was placed in a locked glass case. Everyone hoped that this would end the curse. Sadly, the curator who handled the statue died shortly after that. No one has touched the statue since that time. It has remained locked in the case, and there has been no further activity by the goddess of death. The Crying Boy is a mass-produced print of a painting by Italian painter Giovanni Brogolin. This was the pen name of the painter Bruno Amarillo. It was a widely distributed painting from the 1950s and onwards. There are actually numerous alternative versions, all portraits featuring young, tearful boys or girls. In addition to being widely known, certain urban legends attribute a curse to the painting. On the 5th of September in 1985, the British tabloid newspaper, The Sun, reported that an Essex firefighter claimed that the undamaged copies of the paintings were found amidst the ruins of a burned house. By the end of November, belief in the painting's curse was widespread enough that The Sun was organizing mass bonfires of the paintings sent in by readers. Stephen Punn, a British writer and comedian, investigated the curse in a BBC Radio 4 production called Punt Pie. The conclusion reached by the program, following testing at the building research establishment, is that the prints were treated with a varnish containing fire retardant, and that the string holding the painting to the wall would have been the first to deteriorate, resulting in the painting landing face down on the floor and thus being protected from any burns. David Clark, investigative journalist, says that the stories naming the child as Don Bonillo or Diablo did not emerge until 2000 in a book by Tom Slemen. They relate the child to several fires, including the painter's studio. However, he says that there is absolutely no truth to any of this whatsoever. Samantha Houston was the 4-year-old daughter of a Texas senator in 1887, or as some people later knew her, the girl who lives inside the painting. It all started when Samantha's father stayed at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin, Texas, while on official state business, and brought her with him. One day, while Samantha was playing by herself in the hotel and chasing after a ball, she fell down a large flight of stairs to her death. 7 days after her death, hotel visitors claimed to encounter her ghost in the halls and would see her bouncing the same ball in the lobby. It was also claimed that she would be heard giggling in the ladies' room, as well as by the stairs where she died. The paranormal sightings of Samantha Houston didn't end there. After the tragic accident, her wealthy father hired a painter named Richard King to commemorate her death with a grand portrait to be displayed at the Driscoll. However, it seemed as if her spirit shifted itself inside the canvas shortly after it was hung on the wall. In the picture, Samantha holds flowers and looks innocent. But it has been said by present-day hotel staff and guests that if you stare at the painting long enough, her expression changes. Sometimes her mouth appears to widen into a full smile, and other times her face would contort. Some visitors say that the picture makes them feel violated or nauseous. At times they even feel like they're being lifted into the air, or they too are tumbling down a set of stairs. Likewise, when Samantha feels like playing a joke, she will shake the door handles of the Yellow Rose Suite that's located next to her painting to let people know that she is still there. Amanda the doll is a bisque head doll that is reportedly haunted. Amanda was one of the few supposedly haunted dolls that was sold on eBay. According to the story, Amanda was originally made by Heinrich Handwerk in 1884. 119 years later, she was sold on eBay in August of 2003, only to be put up for sale once again after her owners did not want her anymore. Amanda was apparently placed on an auction several times. Many people have reported seeing Amanda move throughout their houses. One woman even reported that she had seemingly moved from room to room without any sort of explanation. This doll is also believed to bring bad luck to those that she does not like. If she discovered that she did in fact like you, she would never harm you. If she ever grew tired of her current home, however, she would wreak havoc on the house, and then she would be put on auction once again. She is currently in the hands of a paranormal investigator in Atlanta, Georgia. Edvard Munch, who lived from 1863 to 1944, is renowned for his haunting imagery that speaks to universal emotions and experiences. Love, jealousy, separation, and death are among the motifs he returned to most frequently, always seeking new ways to articulate those intimate aspects of the human condition. Though equally adept at painting and printmaking, he was especially prolific in the latter, producing well over 800 different images in etching, lithography, woodcut, and other techniques. Essentially self-taught in print media, he was a lifelong innovator, and his prints reflect a constant search to expand the capabilities inherent in each process. Through his graphic work, Munch achieved his most heartfelt and affecting statements. Munch's life was filled with tragedy and heartache. At age 5, he suffered the loss of his mother. His eldest sister died when Munch was only 13. Both women succumbed to tuberculosis, as did his grandmother and his aunt. Edvard, too, was sickly as a child. Later in his life, he was afflicted by alcoholism and spent short periods in clinics for a nervous disorder. Though never to marry, he had several love affairs, of which a few ended badly. Perhaps, then, it is no surprise that infirmity, death, and melancholy figure so strongly in his art. The Dead Mother and Her Child addresses the profound sadness that Munch experienced. A grief-stricken young child, a stand-in for Munch himself, stares directly at each of us. The gesture is, of course, similar to the one that we all know from The Scream, his most famous work. Her clenched hands are held tight against a mask-like and uncomprehending face. Munch expressed in his art exactly what he had lived, unashamed to bear his weaknesses and afflictions, alongside passions and joys that he also experienced. His art reveals an intensity of feeling and lack of cynicism that is a great antidote to the increasing sense of apathy or non-engagement that contemporary culture can impose on us. Jacob Cooley was an affluent plantation owner, but he was a miserly man. He was always trying to get the best of anyone he did business with, and he treated his slaves very poorly. He would often beat them without any sort of reason. His wife was about to give birth to their first child. One of his slaves, Hosea, was a gifted carpenter, so Jacob asked him to create a chest of drawers for his baby's belongings. Hosea worked long and hard on the chest and was pleased with his labor, but Cooley was not happy with the results. It is unclear why Cooley was so unhappy. One look at the Empire-style mahogany chest of drawers clearly reveals fine craftsmanship. In response, Cooley berated Hosea and beat him so badly that he died a few days later as a result of his injuries. The other slaves and Hosea's family were angry over Hosea's senseless death. They were also angry that Cooley had placed the chest in the nursery despite his seemingly dissatisfied attitude. The slaves wanted retribution. They asked a slave who was gifted in conjuring to place a curse on the chest as payback for what happened to Hosea. A conjurer is someone who conjures spirits or practices black magic. Owl's blood was sprinkled inside the drawers, and a chant accompanied the ritual to complete the curse. All future generations of this family would suffer the curse. The conjurer assumed them. It began with Jacob's son. His first child was also the son he desperately wanted. Sadly, the baby died during his infancy. Another son was born, only to be stabbed to death by a servant. Jacob's youngest daughter, Melinda, inherited the chest. Soon after, her husband abandoned her and their children. He ran away to New Orleans. Heartbroken and despondent, Melinda died a short time after. The family received word that her husband had died in a freak accident soon after arriving in New Orleans. One of their orphan children inherited the chest. It sat empty for many years, so nothing bad happened. Apparently, the curse was only active once something was placed in the chest of drawers. Melinda's daughter, Arabella, stored her wedding dress in the chest for safe storage, or so they thought. Arabella's husband died soon afterwards, while Arabella was pregnant with their first child. As the birth date got close, Arabella began getting ready for the baby. She got the nursery ready and placed some of the baby clothes in the chest. The baby lived only a few weeks before mysteriously dying.